Walter Johnson woke up with a sharp pain in his chest. The 78-year-old man put his hand over his heart and took a deep breath. The pain only got worse. Walter lived alone in his small apartment since his wife Martha passed away 3 years ago. Their son Marcus lived across town and visited twice a week. Not good, Walter whispered to himself. He knew this feeling. It happened before, but not this bad. Walter reached for his phone with shaky hands and called a taxi. The ambulance would cost too much money. 20 minutes later, he was in the back seat of a yellow cab, holding his chest. "West Side Medical Center, please," Walter told the driver. "And hurry if you can." When Walter arrived at the hospital, the emergency room was busy. People sat in plastic chairs, some coughing, others holding ice packs to their heads. Walter slowly walked to the front desk, his breathing heavy and difficult. "I need help," Walter said to the young woman behind the desk. "Chest pain. Bad." The woman barely looked up from her computer. "Fill out these forms and take a seat. A doctor will see you when it's your turn." Walter's hands trembled as he filled out the papers. The pain in his chest was getting stronger. He returned the clipboard to the desk and found an empty chair. Then he waited. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. People who came after him were called in to see doctors. Walter approached the desk twice more, each time explaining that his chest pain was getting worse. Each time he was told to wait his turn. "Mr. Johnson?" A nurse finally called. 4 hours had passed since Walter arrived. The nurse took Walter's blood pressure and temperature, wrote some notes, and left him in a small exam room. 20 minutes later, a doctor walked in. Dr. Reynolds was tall with gray hair and glasses. He looked at Walter's chart for only a few seconds. "So, chest pains?" Dr. Reynolds asked without looking at Walter. "Yes, doctor. Like someone sitting on my chest. Can't breathe right. It's been." "How's your stress level?" Dr. Reynolds interrupted. "My what?" Walter asked, confused. "Your stress. Anxiety. Lots of elderly patients come in thinking they're having heart attacks when it's just anxiety." Before Walter could answer, Dr. Reynolds put a stethoscope to his chest for less than 10 seconds. "I had a heart problem before," Walter tried to explain. 3 years ago. "I'm going to prescribe you a mild sedative," Dr. Reynolds said, already writing on a prescription pad. "You're just having an anxiety attack. Your vitals are stable. But doctor, my heart." "We need this room for real emergencies," Dr. Reynolds said firmly. "Take one of these pills when you feel anxious. Follow up with your regular doctor next week." Walter sat still, stunned. The doctor was already opening the door to leave. "Can I at least rest here a little longer?" Walter asked. "I don't feel right." "I'm sorry, but we're very busy today. The nurse will help you check out." 10 minutes later, a different nurse was leading Walter toward the exit doors. Walter's legs felt weak, and he was dizzy. The pain in his chest hadn't gone away. "I really don't feel good," Walter told the nurse. "Just take the medication the doctor prescribed," she said. "There's a pharmacy 2 blocks down." Outside, the evening air felt cold. Walter couldn't walk to the pharmacy. He couldn't even stand straight. He made it to a bench just outside the hospital entrance and sat down heavily. His breath came in short gasps. With trembling fingers, Walter pulled out his phone and called his son. He needed help. As the phone rang, Walter's vision began to blur at the edges. "Marcus," he whispered when his son answered. "Help me." Marcus Johnson sat at his desk reviewing legal documents for a big case. As a 45-year-old attorney at Wilson and Partners law firm, he had built a strong reputation for his attention to detail and dedication to his clients. His phone buzzed on the desk. When he saw it was his father calling, he smiled and picked up. "Hey, Dad, how are you doing today?" Marcus asked cheerfully. The smile quickly disappeared from his face when he heard his father's weak voice. "Marcus, help me." The words were barely audible, followed by heavy breathing. "Dad, what's wrong? Where are you?" Marcus stood up from his chair, his heart beating fast. "Hospital. Send me out. Can't breathe." Walter's voice was breaking up. "Which hospital?" "West Side." Marcus was already grabbing his car keys and briefcase. "Yes, outside. Bench." "Stay on the phone with me, Dad. I'm coming right now." But there was no response, just the sound of labored breathing. Then the call ended. Marcus rushed out of his office, nearly knocking over his assistant who was bringing him coffee. "Cancel my 4 o'clock meeting," he shouted over his shoulder. "Family emergency." Traffic was heavy as Marcus drove across town. He kept calling his father back, but there was no answer. With each unanswered call, his worry grew stronger. His mind went back to the night his mother died. He had been too late then. He couldn't be too late again. "Come on, move." Marcus humped his horn at the car in front of him that was driving too slowly. He thought about his father, living alone since his mother passed away. Walter was proud and independent. He didn't like asking for help. If he was calling for help now, something was very wrong. Marcus's phone rang. He quickly answered, hoping it was his father. "Mr. Johnson, this is Patricia from Westside Medical Center. Your number was listed as the emergency contact for Walter Johnson." "Yes, that's my father. Is he okay?" "Sir, your father was treated and released earlier today, but we've had reports that he's still on hospital property and appears to be in distress. We were wondering if you could come pick him up." Marcus gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. "I'm already on my way," he said through clenched teeth. "What do you mean he was treated and released? What was wrong with him?" According to his chart, he came in with chest pains but was diagnosed with anxiety and given a prescription for a mild sedative. "Anxiety? My father has a history of heart problems. He had a mild heart attack 3 years ago." I don't see that in his chart, sir," Patricia said, her voice suddenly uncertain. "Well, it should be there. I'm 10 minutes away. Make sure someone checks on him right now." Marcus ended the call and pressed harder on the gas pedal, weaving through traffic. His father's medical history should have been in the system. Walter had been to this hospital before. Something wasn't right. As he drove, Marcus called Dr. Patel, his father's regular doctor. "Dr. Patel's office, how may I help you?" A receptionist answered. "This is Marcus Johnson. I need Walter Johnson's medical records sent to Westside Medical Center immediately. It's an emergency. We need a signed release form too. My father could be dying right now because they didn't have his records. Please, this is life or death." After a brief pause, the receptionist said, "I'll speak to Dr. Patel right away." Marcus was now 5 minutes from the hospital. His thoughts raced with worry and anger. Why had they sent his father out of the hospital if he was sick? Why hadn't they checked his medical history properly? As he turned the corner, the hospital came into view. Marcus prayed he wasn't too late. Marcus pulled into the hospital parking lot and stopped his car in the emergency zone, not caring if it would be towed. He jumped out and ran toward the hospital entrance. That's when he saw him. Walter was slumped on a bench near the sliding doors, an older black man in a blue sweater, barely staying upright. His eyes were half closed, and his breathing came in short, painful gasps. "Dad!" Marcus shouted, running to his father's side. He dropped to his knees in front of Walter and took his cold hands. "Dad, can you hear me?" Walter's eyes focused slowly on his son's face. "Marcus," he whispered. "You came." "Of course I came," Marcus said, fighting back tears. He noticed a folded paper in his father's pocket, discharge papers. He pulled them out and quickly read them. Asterisk, patient. Walter Johnson, 78 asterisk. Asterisk, diagnosis. Anxiety asterisk. Asterisk, treatment. Prescribed lorazepam 0.5 milligrams asterisk. Asterisk, follow-up. As needed with primary care physician asterisk. Asterisk, physician. Dr. T. Reynolds asterisk. Anxiety? That's all, Marcus said in disbelief. "Dad, can you stand? I need to get you back inside." Walter tried to stand with his son's help but nearly collapsed. Marcus had to catch him to keep him from falling. "I'm taking you back in, and they're going to help you this time," Marcus said firmly. Marcus put his arm around his father's waist and helped him through the sliding doors into the emergency room. The waiting area was still crowded. People looked up as they entered, seeing Walter struggling to breathe. At the front desk sat the same young woman who had checked Walter an hours earlier. Her name tag read Kelsey. She looked up with annoyance that turned to surprise when she recognized Walter. "Sir, your father has already been seen and—" "My father is seriously ill," Marcus interrupted. "He needs medical attention now. He's already been evaluated by Dr. Reynolds," Kelsey said, her voice firm but uncertain. If he wants to be seen again, he'll need to check in and wait his turn. Marcus felt a surge of anger. Look at him. Does he look like he can wait? Two security guards glanced their way. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing that losing his temper wouldn't help his father. My name is Marcus Johnson. I'm an attorney with Wilson and Partners, he said calmly but firmly. My father has a documented history of heart problems. He should never have been discharged in this condition. A nurse walking by stopped and looked at Walter with concern. Her name tag read Maria. Sir, is your father okay? She asked. No, he's not, Marcus replied. He came in with chest pains hours ago, but was diagnosed with anxiety and sent outside. He has a history of heart problems that no one bothered to check. Maria came closer and looked at Walter more carefully. She frowned and immediately took his wrist to check his pulse. His pulse is irregular and his skin is clammy, she said. We need to get him back immediately. Kelsey started to protest, but Dr. Reynolds already. I don't care what Dr. Reynolds said, Maria interrupted. This man needs help now. She quickly got a wheelchair and helped Marcus get Walter into it. Walter's head rolled to one side, his face gray with pain. Thank you, Marcus said to Maria, his voice thick with emotion. I'm just doing my job, Maria replied, wheeling Walter toward the treatment area. We need an EKG and cardiac panel stat. As they passed through the double doors, Marcus saw Dr. Reynolds talking to another doctor down the hall. They made eye contact, and the doctor's expression changed from casual to concerned. That's him, Marcus whispered to Maria. That's the doctor who sent my father away. Focus on your dad now, Maria said quietly. We'll deal with that later. Marcus paced outside the exam room where medical staff worked on his father. His phone buzzed with messages from his office, but he ignored them. Nothing mattered except Walter's health right now. After 20 minutes, Dr. Reynolds approached Marcus in the hallway. The doctor's confident walk slowed as he got closer. Mr. Johnson, I'm Dr. Reynolds. I treated your father earlier today. Marcus turned to face the doctor, keeping his voice level despite his anger. You didn't treat him. You dismissed him. Dr. Reynolds frowned. Your father presented with symptoms consistent with anxiety. His vital signs were stable at the time. Did you check his medical history? Marcus asked. We asked about. Did you check his records? Marcus interrupted. My father has been a patient at this hospital before. 3 years ago, he had a cardiac event. That information should be in your system. Dr. Reynolds shifted uncomfortably. We were very busy today and too busy to provide proper care. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Dr. Reynolds the screen. I have my father's complete medical history right here. It took me 5 seconds to pull it up. The doctor stared at the screen showing Walter's history of heart problems, medications, and previous hospital visits. Mr. Johnson, I understand you're upset, but I'm beyond upset, Marcus said. I want to know why my father wasn't given proper care. Did all patients today receive such quick examinations, or was there something specific about my father that made you rush him out? The implication hung in the air between them. Dr. Reynolds' face flushed. I assure you, we provide the same level of care to all our patients regardless of age, race, both? Marcus asked, is legal training taking over? Because from where I'm standing, an elderly black man with a documented history of heart problems was ignored and literally put out of the hospital while seriously ill. Dr. Reynolds opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted when Maria rushed out of Walter's exam room. We need help in here. His blood pressure is dropping. Dr. Reynolds immediately turned and hurried into the room. Marcus followed, his heart pounding with fear. Inside, the small room was filled with medical staff working quickly around Walter. His father lay on the exam table, an oxygen mask over his face. Machines beeped with alarming sounds. What's happening? Marcus asked, his voice shaking. A different doctor, a woman with short gray hair, glanced at Marcus. Your father is having a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. We're doing everything we can. He needs to go to the cath lab now, another doctor said. His EKG shows significant SD elevation. Marcus watched in horror as they prepared to move his father. Walter's eyes fluttered open for a moment and found Marcus. He weakly raised his hand. Marcus stepped forward and took his father's hand. I'm here, Dad. They're taking care of you now. You're going to be okay. Walter squeezed his son's hand before his eyes closed again. Sir, we need to take him for emergency surgery, the female doctor told Marcus. I'm Dr. Patel, no relation to his primary care physician. I'll be performing his cardiac catheterization. Will he be okay? Marcus asked, his voice breaking. He got here just in time, Dr. Patel said honestly. If he'd been left outside much longer. She didn't finish the sentence. As they wheeled Walter toward the elevator, Marcus pulled out his phone and started making notes of everything that had happened. Names, times, conversations. Dr. Reynolds appeared at his side again. Mr. Johnson, I want you to know how sorry I am for this misunderstanding. Marcus looked up from his phone, his expression cold. This wasn't a misunderstanding, Doctor. This was negligence, and I promise you, it won't be ignored. The waiting room felt like a prison to Marcus. 2 hours had passed since they took Walter for emergency surgery. Marcus sat with his head in his hands, praying his father would survive. A gentle touch on his shoulder made him look up. It was Maria, the nurse who had helped Walter. I just wanted to check on you, she said, sitting next to him. Dr. Patel is one of our best cardiologists. Your father is in good hands. Thank you for helping us, Marcus said. If you hadn't stepped in. Maria nodded, understanding what he couldn't say, and she looked around to make sure no one was listening. What happened to your father today wasn't right, she said quietly. And it wasn't the first time something like this has happened here. Marcus sat up straighter. What do you mean? Maria hesitated, then continued. I've been keeping track. Certain patients, especially elderly people of color, don't get the same attention as others. Their pain isn't taken as seriously. They're discharged faster. You have evidence of this? Marcus asked, his legal mind working despite his worry. I have my notes and observations. Nothing official. She pulled out a small notebook from her pocket. I started writing things down 6 months ago. Times, dates, patient descriptions, doctors involved. Marcus took the notebook and quickly flipped through it. Page after page of brief notes about patients who had been rushed out, undertreated, or dismissed. Why are you showing me this? Marcus asked. Because you're an attorney, and your father deserved better, Maria replied. Most patients and families just accept what happens. They don't have the knowledge or resources to fight back. The conversation was interrupted when Dr. Patel entered the waiting room, still wearing her surgical gown. Marcus stood quickly, his heart racing. Mr. Johnson, Dr. Patel said, your father made it through the procedure. We placed 2 stents to open blocked arteries. He's stable but still critical. Marcus felt his knees go weak with relief. Can I see him? He's in recovery now. You can see him soon, Dr. Patel said. Then her expression became more serious. Mr. Johnson, your father should have been admitted immediately when he first came in. His symptoms and medical history clearly indicated a cardiac event in progress. I know, Marcus said, and I want to know why that didn't happen. So do I, Dr. Patel replied firmly. I've requested a full review of his case. This should not have happened. After Dr. Patel left, Marcus sat back down and looked again at Maria's notebook. Evidence of a pattern, not just a single mistake. His phone rang, his law partner, David. Marcus, where are you? You missed the Henderson meeting. My father had a heart attack, Marcus said. He's at Westside Medical. They almost killed him, David. What? Is he okay? He's stable for now. Marcus explained what had happened. How Walter had been dismissed with anxiety and left outside the hospital while having a heart attack. That's outrageous, David said. Do you need anything? Legal help. Marcus looked at Maria's notebook in his hand. Actually, I think I do. This might be bigger than just my father's case. Can you bring me the case files on medical malpractice and civil rights violations in healthcare? And my laptop. I'll be there in 30 minutes, David replied. After the call ended, Maria asked, What are you planning to do? Marcus closed the notebook carefully. First, I'm going to make sure my father recovers fully. Then I'm going to make sure this never happens to anyone else in this hospital again. 3 days later, Walter was moved from the ICU to a regular hospital room. His color had improved, and he could sit up and talk, though he tired easily. Marcus had barely left the hospital, sleeping in the chair beside his father's bed. "You should go home and rest, son," Walter told Marcus that morning. "I'm not going anywhere." "I'm staying right here," Marcus replied, arranging the pillows behind his father's back. "How are you feeling today?" "Better," Walter said. "Still sore, but better." He looked at the stack of papers and laptop on the small table beside Marcus. "What's all that?" Before Marcus could answer, there was a knock at the door. A tall black woman in a dark suit entered the room. "Mr. Johnson? I'm Diane Foster, the hospital administrator. May I come in?" Marcus stood and shook her hand, studying her carefully. "We've been expecting someone from administration to visit." Diane looked at Walter. "Mr. Johnson, I want to personally apologize for what happened to you. It was unacceptable." Walter nodded but said nothing, watching his son take charge. "Ms. Foster, my father nearly died due to negligence at this hospital," Marcus said. "An apology is just the beginning." Diane took a deep breath. "I understand. We're conducting a thorough investigation into the incident. Dr. Reynolds has been placed on administrative leave pending review." "That's a start," Marcus said. "But I've learned this wasn't an isolated incident." He picked up Maria's notebook from the table and held it up. "I have documentation of at least 20 similar cases in the past 6 months. Elderly patients of color receiving substandard care at this hospital." Diane's expression tightened. "I'd like to see that documentation." "Of course," Marcus replied. "My law firm is preparing a formal complaint that will include all of this evidence. We'll be submitting it to the hospital board, the state medical licensing board, and potentially filing a class action lawsuit." Walter watched his son with pride. Even sick in a hospital bed, he could see how strong and capable Marcus had become. "We want to resolve this without legal action if possible," Diane said carefully. "Then you need to take this seriously," Marcus answered. "This isn't just about my father. It's about systemic problems in how this hospital treats certain patients." Diane nodded slowly. "What would you consider an appropriate response from the hospital?" Marcus had been thinking about this for days. First, a complete review of all policies and practices, with input from community members. Second, mandatory bias training for all staff. Third, a patient advocacy program with real authority to intervene. Fourth, a community oversight board that reviews complaints and patterns of care. Walter smiled weakly from his bed. "And fifth, all my medical bills covered, including future cardiac care." Marcus grinned at his father. "And fifth, what he said." Diane wrote everything down in her notebook. "I'll take this to the board immediately. Can we meet again later this week to discuss next steps?" "Yes," Marcus said, "but know that we're moving forward with our complaint regardless." After Diane left, Walter reached for his son's hand. "You're fighting for more than just me." "I learned from you, Dad," Marcus said, squeezing his father's hand. "You always said if you see something wrong, you have to do something about it." Walter's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother would be so proud of you." A different nurse entered the room with Walter's medication. She smiled warmly. "How are we feeling today, Mr. Johnson?" "Better than yesterday," Walter said. "And I have a feeling things are going to keep getting better." Marcus nodded, looking at the stack of documents he'd been working on. This was just the beginning. 1 month later, Walter sat in Marcus's living room, watching the local news. He had moved in with his son temporarily while recovering. His strength was returning day by day, but doctors said he needed to take it easy for at least 2 more months. "Dad, you need to take your afternoon medicine," Marcus called from the kitchen. "Already did," Walter replied, his eyes fixed on the TV screen. "Marcus, come quick." Marcus rushed into the living room, worried something was wrong. But Walter was pointing at the television. On screen was a group of people holding signs outside Westside Medical Center. The reporter was speaking. "Protesters gathered today after reports emerged of discriminatory practices at Westside Medical. This follows a formal complaint filed by attorney Marcus Johnson, whose father was allegedly denied proper care last month." Marcus sat down next to his father, surprised to see the story on the news. "I didn't know people would protest," Walter said quietly. "I didn't either," Marcus replied. His phone rang. It was Maria, the nurse who had helped them. "Are you watching the news?" she asked when Marcus answered. "Yes, what's happening?" After your complaint went public, other patients started coming forward with their stories. Maria explained. People from the community organized this protest. It's not just about your father anymore. It's about all the patients who were mistreated. When the call ended, Walter looked at his son with amazement. You started something big, Marcus. We started it, Dad. Marcus corrected him. The doorbell rang. It was David, Marcus's law partner, carrying a box of files. Have you seen the news? David asked as he entered. We're watching it now, Marcus replied. David set the box down on the coffee table. Our office has received calls from 15 more patients with similar experiences at Westside, and 3 nurses have come forward as whistleblowers. Walter sat up straighter. What are they saying? They're confirming everything Maria documented, David explained. Some staff were given unofficial directions to move certain patients through quickly to keep beds open for more important cases. The management created a culture where this kind of discrimination was allowed to happen. Marcus looked through the new files, reading the painful stories of patients who had been dismissed, undertreated, or ignored. The hospital board wants to meet tomorrow, David said. They're scared of the publicity. Good, Marcus replied. They should be. Later that afternoon, Walter's phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hello, Walter answered. Mr. Johnson, this is Thomas Reynolds. Walter froze at the sound of the doctor's voice. Dr. Reynolds. Marcus looked up sharply, but Walter put his hand up, signaling he wanted to handle this. Mr. Johnson, Dr. Reynolds paused. I wanted to apologize personally, not because the hospital told me to, but because I need to. I made a terrible mistake with your care. Walter was silent for a moment. Why did you make that mistake, doctor? There was a long pause before Dr. Reynolds answered. I've been asking myself that same question. I think I made assumptions that I shouldn't have. I didn't see you as a person with a real medical emergency. Because I'm old? Because I'm black? Walter asked directly. I didn't think that's who I was, Dr. Reynolds said quietly. But looking back at my patterns of care, I can't deny the evidence. I failed you, and I've failed other patients too. Walter looked at Marcus, who was watching his father with concern. Recognizing the problem is the first step to fixing it, Doctor, Walter said finally. What happens next is what really matters. 6 months later, Walter walked slowly up the steps of Westside Medical Center. It was his first time back since his heart attack. Marcus walked beside him, ready to catch his father if needed, but Walter was much stronger now. You sure you want to do this, Dad? Marcus asked. Walter nodded. I'm sure. It's important. They entered the hospital and took the elevator to the 3rd floor, where a conference room was prepared for the first meeting of the Community Health Oversight Board. A sign on the door read, Working Together for Equal Care. Inside, 12 people sat around a large table. Doctors, nurses, community members, and hospital administrators. They'd all turned as Walter and Marcus entered. Diane Foster, the hospital administrator, stood up. Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat at the head of the table. Walter looked surprised. At the head of the table? Yes, Diane said. As the board's chairperson, that's your seat. Walter moved slowly to the chair, overwhelmed with emotion. 6 months ago, this same hospital had thrown him out like he didn't matter. Now he was leading a board to make sure that never happened to anyone else. Before we begin, Diane said to the group, I want to thank Mr. Johnson and his son Marcus for their courage in bringing serious problems to light. Because of them, our hospital is changing for the better. Walter nodded, then spoke in a clear, strong voice. I never wanted to be in the spotlight. I just wanted proper medical care. He looked around the table. But sometimes life puts you in a position where you have to stand up, not just for yourself, but for others who can't speak up. Marcus watched his father with pride. In the past 6 months, they had accomplished so much. The hospital had fired 2 top administrators who had encouraged rushing certain patients out, required all staff to complete bias training every 6 months, created a new patient advocate position on every floor, changed policies to require full medical history checks for all patients, agreed to regular community reviews of patient care patterns. Dr. Reynolds was also in the room. After his apology, he had become an unexpected ally, speaking openly about his own biases and working to change the culture among doctors. "Let's begin," Walter said, opening the binder in front of him. First item, reviewing the new patient intake procedures. Later that evening, Walter and Marcus sat on Marcus's porch, watching the sunset. "You did good, Dad," Marcus said. Walter smiled. "We did good. But our work isn't finished." Marcus nodded. The hospital was just the beginning. His law firm had opened a new division focused on healthcare justice, with 3 lawyers working full-time on cases of medical discrimination. They were partnering with hospitals across the state to review policies and implement changes. "You know," Walter said thoughtfully, "sometimes the worst things lead to the best things. If they hadn't thrown me out that day." "You almost died, Dad." "Yes," Walter agreed. "But think of how many lives will be saved because of what happened after." Marcus put his hand on his father's shoulder. "Mom would be proud of you." "She'd be proud of both of us," Walter replied. "Sometimes it takes a son to show up for his father, and sometimes it takes a father and son to change the world." They sat together in comfortable silence as the sky turned from orange to purple. One hospital was changing. Soon, others would follow. And it all started because Marcus arrived just in time for his father and stayed to fight for justice.